The divorce papers were still damp with coffee when the alert came through. I'd spilled my mug across Monica's signature, probably the only satisfying thing I'd done all morning at Johnson Space Center. My hand shook as I wiped the brown stain with my sleeve, smearing her lawyer's letterhead into an illegible mess. 15 years of marriage reduced to soggy legal jargon. Then Garrett Vaughan burst through my office door without knocking. "Hollis, we need you in tracking." His face had gone the color of old newspaper. "Something came in." "I'm on personal leave for another." "It's not a rock. It's not a probe. It's broadcasting." He grabbed my arm, leaving sweat marks on my sleeve. "In English, Hollis. It's broadcasting in damn English." I followed him down the fluorescent corridors to the tracking station, a converted conference room with 6 monitors. Silas Mercer sat hunched over the main console, his headset crooked. "Play it," Garrett said. Static. Then a voice, male, American accent, mid-30s. "This is Donovan Hayes, astronaut candidate class of 2031. If you're receiving this, do not send anyone to investigate. The ship designated 447 is not a ship. It's a static surge. Trap designed to look like salvation. They carved our warnings into the hull. They made us watch." The transmission cut to a tone somewhere between a dial tone and a scream. "Astronaut candidate class of 2031, Silas repeated. "That program doesn't exist yet. We're in 2025. Garrett pulled up the object's trajectory. It was moving wrong. Too slow for a comet, too fast for an asteroid. Its course bent at angles that made my engineering degree cry. "When did we first detect it?" 17 minutes ago, Garrett said. "But according to the data..." He swallowed. "According to the spectrometer readings, parts of that thing are older than our solar system, and parts of it were manufactured last Thursday." My ex-wife's signature was still sticky on my fingers. I thought about her last words to me. "You always choose work over us." I looked at the screens, at the impossible readings, at the thing approaching from the direction of Jupiter. "Sir," Silas said quietly, "it just changed course. It's heading for Earth orbit." The transmission played again, that scream tone at the end. I realized it wasn't random noise, hundreds of voices screaming in unison, and underneath, a rhythm, like a heartbeat. Garrett handed me a printout. The hull signature. The photo showed a vessel the size of a cruise ship, its surface covered in text. Human text. Billions of characters etched everywhere. "What does it say?" I asked. "We're still translating, but..." He pointed to one magnified section. The handwriting was different in each line, messy, desperate, carved with something sharp. "They're all the same message, Hollis." I read the words that would haunt me for the next 6 months, words carved by hands that hadn't existed yet. "Don't let it reach Earth. Don't look at the screen. Don't watch what it shows you." Within 30 minutes, the conference room had transformed into something resembling a war room. Director Paulson arrived with a team from Langley, their suits too crisp for people who'd supposedly been woken up at 3 a.m. Houston time. They set up encrypted laptops and started making calls to people whose names I didn't have clearance to hear, voices low and urgent. I stood at the back watching Silas replay the transmission for the 5th time. Each playback made my jaw tighter, muscles aching. That voice, Donovan Hayes, sounded so ordinary, like he was leaving a voicemail about rescheduling lunch, not warning us about something that violated every law of physics I'd studied at MIT 20 years ago. "Dr. Brennan." Paulson appeared at my elbow. "Walk with me." We stepped into the hallway. Through the windows, I could see the Houston skyline beginning to glow with dawn, orange light creeping across the buildings. People were waking up, pouring coffee, making breakfast, completely unaware that something impossible was heading toward them at speeds that shouldn't exist. "Your background is in temporal mechanics," Paulson said. It wasn't a question. Was. 10 years ago, I moved to trajectory analysis because the grant money dried up, and Monica... I stopped myself, because it was more practical. The ship's readings suggest temporal displacement, parts of it existing in multiple time frames simultaneously. He pulled out a tablet, swiped through images. These are the hull inscriptions. We've translated roughly 3,000 messages so far. They're all warnings, all different handwriting, all dated. I took the tablet. The messages scrolled endlessly. Coordinates 29.5586 degrees north, 95.0964 degrees west. Date, October 3rd, 2027. Kyle Thornton, NASA engineer. Don't board. It shows you the end. It makes you carve your warning and then it keeps you alive to watch everyone ignore it. Coordinates 29.5586 degrees north, 95.0964 degrees west. Date, January 18th, 2031. Donovan Hayes, astronaut candidate. The chair in the center chamber. Don't sit in it. Once you see Earth's future, you can't unsee it. We all tried to destroy the ship. We failed. Coordinates 29.5586 degrees north, 95.0964 degrees west. Date, March 9th, 2045. Vincent Wu, mission specialist. 20 years, I've been trying to warn you. The ship doesn't kill, it preserves. It keeps us conscious while our bodies rot. We're still screaming inside the hull. The coordinates were all identical. Johnson Space Center, Houston. These people, I said slowly. Some of them haven't been born yet. Some of them work here now. Kyle Thornton is in Building 30, propulsion engineer, 28 years old. Paulson's voice was flat. I've already sent someone to bring him in. Quietly. And in 2 years, he's going to board that ship. He's going to see something that makes him carve a warning into the hull. And then he's going to die there, along with everyone else who gets curious. Paulson took the tablet back. The ship is currently 3 million miles out. At its current speed, it'll reach Earth orbit in 42 days. We need to destroy it. 3 missiles are already being prepped at Vandenberg. But there's a problem. He pulled up another image, a spectrometer reading that looked like someone had sneezed on a Rorschach test. The ship's material composition changes every time we scan it. 1 minute it's titanium alloy, the next it's organic matter. Then it's something we don't have a name for. Our weapons might not even touch it. Through the conference room window, I saw them bringing Kyle Thornton in. He looked confused, scared, still in his gym clothes, probably pulled from his morning run. He had no idea that his name was carved on a ship that wouldn't arrive for another 2 years of his life. What do you need from me? I asked. Figure out how to kill something that exists in multiple time frames. Paulson straightened his tie. You have 42 days, maybe less if it accelerates. And if I can't? Then in 6 months, according to the latest message we translated, Earth's sky opens and something descends. The exact date is March 15th, 2026. He looked at me with eyes that had seen too many classified briefings. Every message on that hull ends the same way. We watched it happen. We couldn't stop it. Now you'll watch it too. I went back into the conference room. Kyle Thornton sat at the table, Garrett explaining something about routine questioning. The kid looked scared but cooperative. He had no idea he was already dead, had been dead for years in some twisted timeline, his warning carved into metal that hadn't found him yet. Silas waved me over to his station. You need to see this. We picked up another transmission. Different voice. He played it static then. This is Director Harold Paulson, Johnson Space Center, September 30th, 2025. The voice was unmistakable. The same man who'd just been standing in the hallway with me. If you're hearing this, it means the ship has already shown us. Don't trust anyone who claims they can stop it. The ship wants us to try. Every attempt to destroy it just feeds it more warnings, more bodies for the hull. I'm recording this before I board. Before I see what it wants to show me, if past me is listening, I'm sorry. I doomed us the moment I sent that first team. The recording ended. I turned. Paulson stood in the doorway, his face the color of ash. He'd heard his own voice, his own future confession. How long, he whispered. How long until I... 5 days, Silas said, checking the date stamp. According to this, you boarded the ship 5 days from now. Paulson's hand went to his sidearm, fingers trembling. For a terrible moment, I thought he might use it on himself. Instead, he just stared at the screen where his future self had condemned him, eyes empty. Then we have 5 days, he said quietly, his voice breaking, to figure out how to change what's already happened. The interrogation room smelled like burnt coffee and fear. Kyle Thornton sat across from me, his runner's high long gone, replaced by the kind of panic you get when reality stops making sense. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, irregular and annoying. Paulson had assigned me to question him, maybe because I had the least threatening face in the building, or maybe because Paulson was too busy trying not to think about boarding a ship that would turn him into a warning carved in metal. "I don't understand what you want from me," Kyle said. His knee bounced under the table, a nervous rhythm that was making me anxious too. "I run propulsion systems. I crunch numbers. I've never even been off planet. I get motion sickness on airplanes." "Your name is on that ship," I slid the tablet across to him. "See for yourself." He read his own message, his own handwriting, though he'd never written it. Each word carved with something sharp, desperate. The colour drained from his face in stages, like watching time-lapse photography of a flower dying. "That's not possible. I didn't write that. I wouldn't..." His voice cracked. "October 3rd, 2027. That's 2 years from now." "We know." "How?" He looked up at me, eyes red. "How is any of this possible?" "We were hoping you could tell us." I leaned back. Outside the one-way glass, I knew Garrett and Silas were recording everything, analysing every word for clues we didn't have yet. "Have you experienced anything unusual lately? Missing time? Strange dreams about space travel?" "No, nothing. I work, I run, I play video games with my brother on weekends." His hands were shaking now. "I'm supposed to visit him next month in Austin. He's getting married. Am I going to die before his wedding?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound like a lie. The door opened. Garrett leaned in, his expression grim. "We have a situation." "Conference room. Now." Kyle started to stand. Garrett shook his head. "Just Hollis." Back in the tracking station, chaos had replaced the earlier tension. 3 new transmissions had come through, all within the last 10 minutes, each one worse than the last. Silas had them queued up, his hands moving between screens like a pianist playing something dissonant and wrong. "The ship's accelerating," he said. "New ETA to Earth orbit, 17 days. "Play the transmissions," Paulson ordered. He'd changed his shirt, I noticed. The old one probably reeked of sweat and existential dread. First transmission, a woman's voice this time, British accent, cultured. "This is Dr. Ainsley Whitmore, Xenolinguistics Division, October 11th, 2026. I translated the ship's original broadcast, the one before all the warnings, before anyone understood what we were dealing with. It wasn't a distress call, it was an invitation. Come see what you'll become. Come witness the moment you fail. The ship is a monument, a memorial to human curiosity killing us all." Second transmission, male, younger, crying. "Jamie Keller, graduate intern, February 2026. I'm 23. I have a dog named Rocket. I was supposed to defend my thesis next year. Instead, I'm trapped in the hull with 16 other people who were stupid enough to board. We can feel each other's thoughts now. The ship connected us. We're all screaming and none of us can move, and we've been here for decades, maybe centuries, maybe forever. Time doesn't work right inside the walls." Third transmission. A voice I recognized immediately. My own. "Dr. Hollis Brennan, Systems Engineer, March 1st, 2026. My future self sounded hollow, scraped clean of emotion. Monica was right. I chose work over everything else. And now I'm here, carved into a ship I helped board because I thought I was clever enough to understand it. The chair showed me the end. Not just Earth's end. Every world's end. Every species that gets curious enough to look. The ship collects us. We become part of the warning system. And we watch, trapped in the metal, as the next civilization makes the same choice we did. The room went silent. Everyone was looking at me. My future corpse had just told them I was already condemned. When? I asked. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. 4 months from now, Silas said softly. March 1st, 3 weeks before the sky opens. I thought about Monica. About the divorce papers still sitting on my desk, coffee-stained and unsigned. She'd wanted me to choose her, just once. To put her before the work, before the mysteries, before the endless need to understand things that maybe weren't meant to be understood. Now I knew I never would. We need to change this, Paulson said. All of it. The ship wants us to board. Fine. We send the missiles instead. The composition readings, Garrett started. I don't care about the readings. Paulson's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. The edge of a man who'd heard himself confess to dooming the planet. We throw everything we have at it. Kinetic impactors, nuclear warheads, laser arrays from the orbital defense platforms. Something has to work. And if nothing does, I asked, then we evacuate Houston. We establish a perimeter. We make sure nobody can reach that thing when it achieves orbit. He looked at each of us in turn. As of now, this is a containment operation. The ship is a cognitohazard. Anyone who sees it, anyone who boards it, becomes part of its warning system. We can't stop it by understanding it. We stop it by destroying it before understanding becomes fatal. A junior analyst raised her hand timidly. Sir, the public is starting to notice. Amateur astronomers are picking up the ship's signature. Social media's calling it the September object. They think it's another Oumuamua. Let them think that. Paulson turned to me. Hollis, I need you to run every scenario, every possible way that ship could be vulnerable. Physics, temporal mechanics, whatever crack in its armor we can exploit. And Kyle? Keep him here. Safe. If we can prevent him from boarding in 2027, maybe we can start unwriting the future. Paulson's jaw tightened. Maybe we can all unwrite our futures. I went back to my office. The divorce papers were still there, Monica's signature blurred by coffee. I picked up my phone, fingers hovering over her contact. What would I say? That I was going to die in 4 months. That she'd been right about everything. That I was sorry for being the kind of man who needed the universe to literally carve his fate into metal before he could admit he'd made a mistake. I put the phone down. Instead, I opened my laptop and started building models. Temporal displacement scenarios, causality loops, ways to kill something that technically hadn't arrived yet, but had already claimed victims who hadn't been born. The math made my head throb, each equation opening into fractal impossibilities. Around midnight, Silas knocked on my doorframe. He had an energy drink in each hand, condensation running down the cans, offered me one. Can't sleep either, he asked. I haven't tried. Fair. He sat down uninvited. You know what the worst part is? The ship isn't evil. It's not trying to hurt us. It's just showing us the truth. We're curious. We see something impossible and we have to understand it. That's what makes us human. He took a long drink. And that's exactly what kills us. So what do we do? Stop being curious? Maybe. He stared at his screen. Or maybe we get smarter about what we're curious about. Some doors shouldn't be opened, Hollis. Some questions shouldn't be asked. That's not science. No, his smile was bitter. But maybe it's survival. After he left, I pulled up the transmission of my future self again. Listened to my own voice describing the chair, the view screen, the moment everything changed. In 4 months, I would sit in that chair. I would see what the ship wanted to show me, and then I would spend eternity trapped in metal, screaming warnings nobody would listen to. Unless we destroyed it first, unless we changed the future that had already happened. I opened a new file and started typing. If the ship existed in multiple timeframes simultaneously, maybe we didn't need to destroy it in the present. Maybe we needed to destroy it in the past, or the future, or all of them at once. The math was impossible. But then again, so was everything else about this situation. My phone buzzed, a text from Monica, unexpected at this hour. "Papers arrived. I'll sign tomorrow. Sorry it came to this." I typed back, "Me too." Then I deleted it and wrote instead, "Can we talk? Not about the divorce, about something else, something important." She didn't respond. The silence felt heavy, final. I went back to the equations, building weapons out of mathematics, trying to kill something that had already won. The missiles launched at 0400 hours from Vandenberg Space Force Base, 3 AGM-183 kinetic impactors, each carrying enough force to vaporize a city block. I watched the launch feeds from the control room, surrounded by people who'd forgotten what sleep felt like. "Impact in 6 minutes, the weapons specialist announced. Lieutenant Hayes, no relation to the Donovan Hayes whose warning started this nightmare. He had dark circles under his eyes that matched everyone else's in the room. Paulson stood rigid at the center of the room. He hadn't slept since hearing his own voice on that transmission. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at his hands, like he was trying to memorize exactly what they looked like before they became part of a ship's hull. 5 minutes to impact. On the main screen, the ship hung in space like a malignant star. Our best cameras could barely resolve its shape, a massive cylinder covered in text, billions upon billions of carved warnings. It didn't move. It didn't evade. It just waited. Garrett stood next to me, his coffee long gone cold. "What if it works?" he whispered. "Then we get to keep our futures," I said. 4 minutes. Silas had the spectrometer readings up on his auxiliary screen. The ship's composition was fluctuating again. Carbon, then silicon, then something that registered as pure void. Like it was cycling through every possible state of matter, refusing to commit to being any one thing. 3 minutes to impact, missiles are locked on target. I thought about Kyle Thornton, still sequestered in a safe house in Galveston. We'd told him he was under protective custody, but really we'd just taken away his freedom to choose his future. If the missiles worked, maybe he'd never have to carve his warning into that hull. Maybe his timeline would simply cease to exist, unwritten by high explosives. 2 minutes. My phone vibrated. A text from Monica. "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about your message. What did you want to talk about?" I typed back. "Everything. Nothing. I'm sorry." 1 minute to impact. The room held its collective breath. On screen, the missiles converged on the ship from 3 different angles. Perfect geometry. Textbook approach vectors. The kind of strike that should have obliterated anything made of matter. 30 seconds. Paulson's jaw was so tight I could hear his teeth grinding from across the room. 20 seconds. I wanted to close my eyes but couldn't. This was humanity's first punch at something that had already killed us. We had to watch. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Lieutenant Hayes counted down like he was reading a grocery list. Professional detachment in the face of cosmic horror. 3, 2, 1, impact. The missiles hit simultaneously. For a fraction of a second, the ship's surface bloomed with 3 points of brilliant light. The explosion should have been visible from Earth, should have scattered debris across 1,000,000 miles of space. Instead, the light simply stopped. No expansion, no shockwave. The 3 impact points froze mid-detonation, like someone had paused a video. The light hung there, crystallized, and then began to fold inward. The ship absorbed the explosions, pulling the energy into itself like a sponge drinking water. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. The ship's surface rippled. For a moment, the text shifted, rearranging itself into new patterns. Then it stabilized, and our cameras zoomed in on one of the newly formed sections. Fresh carvings, fresh warnings, 3 of them. Lieutenant Alexander Hayes, weapons specialist, September 20th, 2025. The missiles didn't work. They never work. Every weapon you fire becomes part of the ship. I'm writing this from inside the hull now. It happened so fast. The moment of impact, we were here. All 3 missiles, all 6 crew members. The ship made us watch our own detonations from the inside. "That's impossible," Lieutenant Hayes said, his voice cracking. "I'm right here." I didn't. I'm not on those missiles. But on the screen, his name stared back at him in his own handwriting. Get him out of here, Paulson ordered. 2 guards moved toward Hayes. He backed away, hands up. I'm not dead. I'm not on that ship. This is some kind of trick. Lieutenant, please. No. He pulled his sidearm, not pointing it at anyone, just holding it. The ship is lying. It has to be lying. I'm real. I'm here. The gun vanished from his hand. Just disappeared. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. Hayes stared at his empty palm, then at his hands. They were fading, becoming translucent, like watching someone dissolve in reverse, from the outside in. Sir? His voice was confused, young. Sir, I don't feel right. Get medical in here now, Paulson shouted, but there was no time. Lieutenant Alexander Hayes turned transparent, then flickered, then simply ceased to exist. He didn't fall, he didn't collapse, he just stopped being there. The space he'd occupied was empty, like he'd never existed at all. Except on the ship's hull, his warning remained. The room erupted into chaos, people shouting, crying, running for the exits. Garrett grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. What the hell just happened? The ship changed his timeline, I heard myself say. It retroactively placed him on the missile, made him part of the crew. He existed in 2 states simultaneously, and the ship chose which one was real. That's not possible. Neither is any of this. Paulson's voice cut through the panic. Everyone shut up and sit down. His command voice, honed by years of military service. Right now, I need calm. I need functional people. Fall apart later. Slowly, people returned to their stations, but the fear was palpable now. If the ship could retroactively erase someone, rewrite their existence, then none of us were safe. We could all be unmade between one heartbeat and the next. Silas pulled up the spectrometer readings. The ship just increased in mass, by exactly the weight of 3 missiles plus 6 humans. It didn't destroy our attack, it absorbed it, converted it into more warning surface. Recommendations? Paulson asked. Silence. What do you say when physics stops working? When causality becomes optional? Finally, Garrett spoke. We evacuate, not just Houston, the entire Gulf Coast, maybe the whole eastern seaboard. Get everyone far enough away that they can't reach the ship when it achieves orbit. That's 60 million people, someone objected. Better than 7 billion corpses, Garrett shot back. My phone buzzed again. Monica. Hollis, you're scaring me. What's going on? I looked at the screen, at the ship growing larger as it accelerated toward us, at Lieutenant Hayes' warning carved in metal, written by a man who'd just been erased from our timeline. In 4 months, I would be up there too. My name, my warning, my consciousness trapped in a hull made of human regret. Unless I figured out how to kill something that rewrote reality to suit itself. There might be another way, I said. Everyone turned to look at me. The ship exists in multiple time frames. Past, present, future, all simultaneously. Every attack we've tried has been in the present. We hit it with missiles that exist now. I pulled up my laptop, started typing equations. But what if we don't attack it in the present? What if we attack it in the past, before it arrived in our solar system? That's time travel, Paulson said. We don't have that technology. No, but the ship does. I showed them my math. Look at the composition readings. The ship isn't just moving through space, it's moving through time. The fluctuations in its material structure are temporal, not physical. It's existing at multiple points in its own timeline simultaneously. So if we can tap into its temporal wake, we can send something backwards. A weapon, information, anything. I was talking faster now, the pieces clicking together. The ship is like a bridge connecting its own past and future. We just need to cross that bridge in the opposite direction. Silas leaned forward. You're talking about sending a message to our past selves, warning them before the ship arrived. Better. I'm talking about destroying it before it arrives. We send the weapon back to intercept it at the edge of the solar system. before it gets close enough to start rewriting timelines. That's insane, Garrett said. So is everything else about this situation? Paulson studied my equations. His hands weren't shaking anymore. Having a plan, even an insane one, had steadied him. How long to build this temporal weapon? I don't know. Days? Weeks? I met his eyes. Assuming it's even possible. Make it possible. He turned to the room. Everyone not working on temporal mechanics, coordinate with FEMA. Start evacuation protocols for the Gulf Coast. Slow roll it. We don't want panic. Just a gradual migration inland. And if the weapon doesn't work? Someone asked. Paulson's expression was grim. Then in 17 days, that ship achieves Earth orbit, and we find out exactly what it wants to show us. I gathered my notes and headed for my office. As I passed the spot where Lieutenant Hayes had been standing, I felt a cold spike of fear. The floor didn't remember him. There was no scuff mark from his boots, no coffee stain from where he'd been standing. It was like he'd never been there at all. The ship hadn't just killed him. It had erased him from the present and relocated him to the past, made him die 3 hours ago in a missile explosion he didn't know he was part of. If it could do that to Hayes, it could do it to any of us. I called Monica on my way back to the office. She answered on the third ring. Hollis? It's 4 a.m. I know, I just needed to hear your voice. What's wrong? And don't tell me nothing, I can hear it. I wanted to tell her everything, the ship, the warnings, my name carved in metal 4 months from now, but classification kept my mouth shut. Instead, I said, I made mistakes, chose work over you, over us, and I'm sorry. Silence on the other end, then, why are you telling me this now? Because I might not get another chance. More silence. Finally. Come see me. Tomorrow. We'll talk. Okay. Hollis, whatever you're working on, be careful. I hung up and stared at my equations, at the mathematics of killing something that had already won. Outside my window, dawn was breaking over Houston. People were waking up, making breakfast, living their lives. Completely unaware that 17 days from now everything might change. Or that I had 17 days to rewrite the past before the future carved itself into our flesh. Monica's apartment in Clear Lake still had our photos on the walls. 12 years of marriage documented in frames I'd helped hang. There we were at the Grand Canyon at her sister's wedding. All those moments frozen in time, and now we were frozen too. She poured coffee with shaking hands. You look terrible. Haven't slept much. The project you're working on. It's serious. Not a question. Monica had always been able to read me. It's what made the divorce hurt more. She knew exactly what she was losing, and she'd chosen to lose it anyway. Yeah, it's serious. Can you tell me what it is? I thought about classification protocols, about the consequences of revealing what was heading toward us. Then I thought about Lieutenant Hayes, erased from existence. There's something coming, I said. Something we don't know how to stop. She sat across from me, cupping her coffee like it could warm the cold space between us. Will it hurt? When it comes? I don't know, maybe. The people who've warned us about it, they say it shows you things, the future, the end of everything, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sounds like our marriage. She smiled, but there was no humor in it. I saw the end coming for years, tried to warn you, but you were too busy with the equations to notice. I noticed, I just thought I could solve it, like everything else. Find the right formula, plug in the variables, get the answer. I stared into my cup. But people aren't equations, Monica. You can't solve them. No, you can't. She reached across the table, touched my hand briefly. Hollis, are you in danger? The honest answer was yes. In 4 months, my name would be carved on that ship. I would board it, sit in that chair, watch the end of everything, and spend eternity screaming warnings nobody would hear, but I couldn't tell her that. We all are. Everyone on Earth. Then why are you here? Shouldn't you be at the center, working? Because you're more important than the math. The words felt strange in my mouth, like a language I'd forgotten how to speak. I'm here because I chose wrong before, and I wanted to choose right at least once. She pulled her hand back, tears starting. Don't do that. Don't make this some deathbed confession. I can't handle that right now. It's not... You're saying goodbye. Her voice cracked. You're saying goodbye without saying it. I know you, Hollis. You wouldn't leave the center unless you thought you were never coming back. My phone buzzed. Garrett. Ship accelerated again. New ETA. 8 days. Paulson wants you back immediately. 8 days. They'd cut our deadline by more than half. The ship was rushing toward us now, eager to show us what waited at the end. I have to go. Monica stood, crossed her arms. Of course you do. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing and fix it. Whatever's coming, whatever solution you're building, make it work. Come back alive. Then we'll talk about apologies. She walked me to the door. And Hollis? If you can't fix it, if the end really is coming, yeah. Don't let it be alone. Whatever happens, don't die alone out there. I drove back to Johnson Space Center with her words echoing in my head. The morning traffic was heavy, people heading to work, living normal lives while something impossible accelerated toward them. I wanted to roll down my window and scream at them to run, to evacuate, to get as far from the coast as possible. But where would they go? If the ship reached orbit, nowhere on Earth would be safe. The center was chaos when I arrived. More people had been read into the program. Astrophysicists, quantum mechanics specialists, even a physicist from CERN. They'd converted the entire B-wing into a temporal research facility. Silas grabbed me the moment I walked in. We've got a problem. The ship's temporal wake is collapsing. Whatever window we had to send something backwards is closing. How long? Based on current degradation rates, maybe 48 hours. After that, the timeline solidifies and we're stuck in the present. I found Paulson in the main lab, staring at a prototype weapon that looked like someone had welded a particle accelerator to a bomb. Dr. Raymond Keller explained tachyon emission rates. Will it work? Paulson asked when he saw me. In theory. We generate a tachyon burst strong enough to punch through the ship's temporal wake, attach the payload to the burst, and send it backwards to intercept the ship at the heliopause. It arrives before the ship enters the solar system, detonates, and prevents this entire timeline from occurring. In theory, Paulson repeated. Yeah, in theory. And in practice, Dr. Keller jumped in. In practice, we're talking about technology that shouldn't exist. Tachyons are theoretical. Sending matter backwards through time violates causality. And even if we succeed, we have no way of knowing if it creates a paradox or simply spawns a new timeline where we don't exist. So we might erase ourselves, Garrett said. Better than being erased by that thing. Paulson pointed at the main screen where the ship grew larger with each passing hour. I studied the weapon. It was crude, built from whatever materials we could requisition in 3 days. What's the payload? Antimatter, Dr. Keller said. 3 grams. Enough to annihilate any conventional matter it touches. If the ship was physical in the past, this should destroy it. And if it wasn't physical? If it only became physical when it entered our solar system? Nobody had an answer for that. Kyle Thornton appeared in the doorway, escorted by 2 guards. He looked thinner, haunted. You called for me? We need your expertise, Paulson said. Propulsion systems. The temporal weapon needs a delivery mechanism that can survive the transition through the wake. You designed the ion drives for the Mars missions. We need something similar but faster, much faster. How fast? Fast enough to travel backwards through time. Kyle laughed, a sound without humor. That's not a propulsion problem. That's a physics problem. Then help us solve the physics, I said. You saw your name on that ship. You know what happens if we fail. Help us prevent it. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded and moved to the whiteboard, started sketching drive configurations. His hands were steady now. Purpose had replaced fear. We worked through the day and into the night, building something that shouldn't exist to kill something that couldn't exist. The equations were beautiful in their impossibility. Mathematics pushed past breaking point. Physics bent into origami shapes that hurt to look at. Around 3 a.m, Silas brought news. We've detected movement in the ship's structure. It's opening. On screen, the hull was splitting along seams we hadn't noticed before. Massive doors irising open, revealing an interior that seemed to go on forever. And at the center, impossibly far away yet somehow visible in perfect detail, was the chair, the view screen, the thing that showed you the end. "It's inviting us in," Garrett whispered. "Or it's getting ready to emerge," Dr. Keller said. "Maybe the ship isn't the threat. Maybe it's just the container." I didn't want to think about what could be inside that needed a ship made of human warnings to contain it. "We launch in 30 hours, Paulson announced. "That's how long it'll take to prep the weapon and calculate the optimal trajectory. After that, the temporal wait closes and we're out of options." "And if we miss?" someone asked. Paulson's expression was granite. "Then we evacuate everyone we can and hope whatever the ship wants to show us isn't as bad as the warnings suggest." But we all knew it would be worse. Warnings are always milder than the reality they're trying to prevent. I called Monica one more time before returning to the equations. She answered immediately, like she'd been waiting. "Still alive," I said. "Good. Keep it that way." "Working on it. We launch the weapon tomorrow night. 36 hours from now, we'll know if this works. And if it doesn't? Then I need you to drive inland as far as you can. Don't look back, don't stop. Just drive." "Hollis, promise me." Silence. Then, "I promise. But you promise me something too." "What?" "Win. Figure it out. Do what you always do. Find the impossible solution hidden in the impossible problem, and come home." "I'll try." "Don't try. Do it." I hung up and stared at the weapon we'd built from desperation and math. In 36 hours, we'd shoot it backwards through time and hope it killed something that had already survived everything we could throw at it. Outside the windows, dawn was breaking again. The third sunrise since this nightmare began. Only 8 more sunrises left before the ship reached orbit, unless we changed the past first. The weapon sat on the launch platform like a prayer made of metal and mathematics. 30 hours of relentless work condensed into something that looked more like modern art than a functional device. Engineers had welded it together from components that shouldn't work together, creating something that defied conventional physics. The antimatter core glowed faintly through shielded glass. 3 grams of annihilation waiting to be unleashed on something that might not even exist yet. I stood in the observation deck with the rest of the team, watching technicians make final adjustments. They moved with careful precision, checking connections, running diagnostic tests one last time. My reflection in the glass looked older than it should. 4 days of this crisis had aged me years, carved lines into my face that Monica would barely recognize. "Final systems check," the launch coordinator announced. "Tachyon emitter at 98%, antimatter containment stable, temporal navigation initialized." Garrett appeared beside me with coffee that smelled like it had been brewed during the Cold War. "You know this is insane, right?" "Yeah." "We're shooting a bomb backwards through time based on equations we invented 3 days ago." "Yeah. And if we're wrong, we might destroy causality itself." "Also, yeah." I took the coffee, it tasted like burnt hope. "But if we're right, the ship never arrives. This whole timeline gets overwritten. We wake up tomorrow and none of this ever happened. Do we remember if the timeline changes? No idea, the math doesn't cover that. So we might save the world and not even know we did it. Or we might destroy everything and create a paradox that unravels reality." I shrugged. Either way, beats letting that thing reach orbit. On the main screen, the ship had grown massive. It filled half the view now, a behemoth that shouldn't be able to exist in normal space. Its hull covered in so much text that individual warnings blurred into a grey mosaic of human desperation. Thousands of messages, maybe millions, all carved by hands that had tried and failed to stop what was coming. The doors were fully open, revealing an interior that seemed to extend into impossible dimensions. I could see the chair now, that goddamn chair, waiting at the center like a throne made of every bad decision humanity had ever made. T-minus 20 minutes, the coordinator said, his voice steady despite the weight of what we were about to attempt. Paulson joined us, his uniform crisp despite the fact he probably hadn't changed it in 2 days. His jaw was set, eyes hard with determination. Dr. Keller confirmed the trajectory calculations. The weapon will arrive at the heliopause approximately 6 weeks before the ship entered our solar system. If the detonation succeeds, the ship is destroyed in the past, and this timeline collapses. And us with it, Silas added. He'd been running quantum probability models all night. There's a 73% chance we cease to exist the moment the weapon succeeds. We're artifacts of a timeline that will never have happened. Better than being artifacts carved into a ship's hull, Paulson said. Kyle Thornton approached, carrying a tablet. I've been thinking about the warnings. Every message says the same thing. Don't board the ship, don't look at the screen, but nobody warns us not to destroy it. So maybe we're supposed to destroy it. Maybe that's part of what it wants. He pulled up hull photographs. Look at the progression of warnings. The earliest ones are simple. Turn back. But they get more complex over time, more detailed, like each generation of victims learned more before they died. Your point, Paulson asked. My point is that the ship learns from us. Every attack, every attempt to understand it feeds it more information, more victims. What if sending a weapon backwards doesn't destroy it? What if it just gives the ship a new timeline to corrupt? The room went quiet. Outside the windows, I could see the launch pad, the weapon waiting to be fired into a past that might not even be vulnerable. T-minus 15 minutes. It's too late to stop now, Paulson said. We launch. We see what happens. If it fails, we still have time to evacuate the coast before the ship reaches orbit. 5 days, Garrett muttered. Not much time. I thought about Monica, probably packing right now, throwing clothes into suitcases without bothering to fold them, following my instructions to drive inland. She'd be safe, at least. Whatever happened, whatever cosmic horror unfolded in the next 36 hours, she'd be far enough away that the ship couldn't reach her. Unless distance didn't matter. Unless the ship's range was the entire planet, and nowhere was truly safe. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Halfway to Dallas. Please tell me this works. I typed back, it has to. She responded immediately. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. T-minus 10 minutes, tachyon emitter charging. Dr. Keller appeared on one of the video feeds from the launch pad. He was suited up, doing final checks on the temporal navigation system. His voice crackled over the speakers. Calibration complete. The weapon is locked onto the ship's temporal signature. Once we fire, it'll follow that signature backwards like a bloodhound. And if the signature changes, I asked, then the weapon gets lost in the time stream and we've just shot 3 grams of antimatter into the past with no way to retrieve it. He paused. Let's hope that doesn't happen. T-minus 5 minutes. The observation deck filled with more people. Scientists, military brass, even a representative from the White House who'd been choppered in an hour ago. Everyone wanted to witness this moment. The moment we either saved the world or doomed it in an entirely new way. I noticed Kyle standing alone by the window, staring at the ship. His reflection overlapped with the image, like he was already there, already carved into the hull with his warning about October 2027. I walked over. You okay? Define okay. He didn't look at me. In 2 years, I'm supposed to board that thing. Write my warning. Die screaming in metal. But if this works, that timeline disappears. I never board, never die, never warn anyone because there's nothing to warn them about. Sounds good to me. Except I'll never know. None of us will. We'll wake up tomorrow and this will all be... What? A dream? A feeling of unease we can't explain? He turned to face me. Or maybe we don't wake up at all. Maybe the timeline collapse takes us with it and we just stop existing. Would that be so bad compared to the alternative? He thought about it. I guess not, at least it's quick. Better than being conscious inside a hull for decades. T-2 minutes, all personnel to observation positions. Everyone moved to their stations, Garrett at the spectrometer tracking the ship's response, Silas monitoring temporal fluctuations, Paulson standing at the center, hands clasped behind his back, every inch the military commander facing down the impossible. I found myself thinking about the chair again. In 4 months, I was supposed to sit in it, see what it showed me. But if the weapon worked, that future evaporated. My warning would never be carved. My wife would never sign those divorce papers because the work I chose over her would never have existed. Maybe we'd still be married. Maybe I'd have made different choices in a timeline where a ship made of warnings never came to teach me about consequences. T-1 minute. The weapon began to glow. The tachyon emitter created a field that looked like heat shimmer, like reality itself was becoming fluid around the device. On every screen, readouts climbed toward critical thresholds. 30 seconds. I held my breath. We all did. The room was silent except for the countdown and the hum of equipment pushing past its theoretical limits. 20 seconds. Temporal lock confirmed. The weapon has acquired the ship's signature. On the main screen, the ship seemed to pulse, like it knew what was coming, like it was waiting to see if we'd figured out the puzzle or just made it worse. 10 seconds. Garrett grabbed my arm. Whatever happens, it's been good working with you. 9, 8, 7. Likewise. 6, 5, 4. The ship's doors began to close. 3, 2. Paulson's voice cut through the tension. Fire! The weapon launched in a burst of light that shouldn't have been possible to look at directly. It shot upward, accelerating beyond any conventional propulsion. Then, at the edge of the atmosphere, it simply disappeared. Not exploded, not stopped, just ceased to exist in the present. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then every screen in the room went white. The ship vanished from our displays. Not destroyed, not moved, just gone. Like someone had erased it from existence. Did it work? Someone asked. Before anyone could answer, the screens flickered back on. But they weren't showing space anymore. They were showing the ship. Closer now, much closer. And it was broadcasting. A new transmission, audio only, came through speakers across the facility. The voice was mine, but older, tired, broken. Dr. Hollis Brennan, Systems Engineer, September 23, 2025. This is the 47th attempt. The ship cannot be destroyed in the past because it exists outside linear time. Every weapon we send backwards becomes part of its structure. Every attempt to prevent its arrival just makes it stronger. I'm recording this from inside the hull. I've been here for 3 days, or 3 years, or forever. Time doesn't work right when you're part of the warnings. The room stared at me, at present me, standing there listening to future me explain how we'd failed. The transmission continued. The weapon you just fired arrived at the heliopause in 2024. The ship absorbed it, used the antimatter to accelerate its journey here. You didn't destroy it. You made it faster. It should have taken 60 days to reach Earth. Now it'll be here in 36 hours. Paulson turned slowly to face the chronometer on the wall. As we watched, the estimated arrival time changed. Recalculated, adjusted downward. 36 hours. I'm sorry, my future self said through the speakers. I thought I was being clever. Thought I could outsmart something that exists in every moment simultaneously. But the ship isn't evil. It's not even alive. It's just a mechanism, a filter. Every species that reaches our level of development encounters it, and every species fails the same way, by trying to understand what they should have avoided. The transmission crackled. In the background, I could hear other voices, screaming, begging, all the people who'd tried to stop the ship, now trapped inside it. Don't send anyone else, my future voice said. Don't try to board it when it arrives. Just evacuate. Get as far from the impact zone as possible. And when the sky opens, don't look up. That's when it starts. That's when you see what's coming, what's always been coming. The transmission ended. The observation deck had gone silent. Everyone was looking at me like I was a ghost, which, in a sense, I was. A ghost from a future that had just become inevitable. 36 hours, Paulson said quietly. We need to evacuate the entire Gulf Coast. Now. Every person, every city, everyone within 500 miles of Houston. But I wasn't listening. I was staring at the ship, at the chair visible through its open doors, and thinking about how in 36 hours I would board that thing. I would sit in that chair. I would see what it wanted to show me, and then I would spend the rest of existence warning people who wouldn't listen, screaming into the void, just like everyone before me. The weapon had failed, not because we'd calculated wrong, but because the ship wanted us to try. It had been waiting for us to be clever. The evacuation turned Houston into a ghost town in 12 hours. Highways packed with cars moving in one direction, away. News anchors called it a mandatory drill, their voices too calm. They didn't know what was really coming. I stayed behind. So did Garrett, Silas, Kyle, and about 30 others. We were the skeleton crew, monitoring the ship's approach while the rest of humanity fled. Monica texted me from Dallas. Safe. Hotel smells like cigarettes. Please tell me you evacuated too. I didn't respond. What could I say? That I was watching the thing that would kill me arrive? That in less than 24 hours, my future self's warning would become present tense? The ship had entered Earth's atmosphere 6 hours ago. It didn't burn, didn't slow, it just descended, ignoring physics the way a dream ignores logic. Now it hung over the Gulf of Mexico, 3 miles offshore, close enough that people with telescopes could see the warnings carved into its hull. Paulson gathered us in the main control room. He looked like he'd aged a decade in the span of just a few days. The president wants options. The UN wants answers. It's already here, Silas said, pointing at the screens. That's as arrived as it gets. Then what's it waiting for? Nobody had an answer. The ship just floated there, doors open, chair visible, waiting for someone to be curious enough to board. We should destroy it, someone suggested. Nuke it while it's still over water. We tried that, Garrett said. Remember Lieutenant Hayes? Every weapon we fire just feeds it, makes it stronger. So we do nothing. We wait, I said. Everyone turned to look at me. According to my future transmission, I board it tomorrow, September 24th. That's when the timeline solidifies. Until then, maybe we still have a chance to change things. How? Kyle asked. Every attempt to fight it has failed. Every weapon, every strategy, all useless. I'd been thinking about that. About the warnings on the hull. About how my future self said the ship was a filter, something every advanced species encountered. What if we're approaching this wrong? I said. What if the ship isn't something to fight or destroy? What if it's a test? A test of what? Restraint. Every warning says the same thing. Don't board, don't look, don't try to understand. What if the only way to pass is to not engage, to see something impossible and walk away? Paulson shook his head. That's not human nature. We're curious, we investigate. It's what made us the dominant species on this planet. And maybe that's what makes us fail every time. I pulled up images of the hull. Look at the dates. Some warnings are from 2025, our present, but others are from 2031, 2045, even 2089. The ship doesn't just collect us once. It keeps coming back. Generation after generation, we board it, see what it shows us, and become part of the warnings for the next generation. A cycle, Silas said quietly. We're stuck in a loop. Unless we break it. I looked at Paulson. What if I don't board? What if, when the moment comes, I just refuse? Your future self already boarded, it's in the timeline. Future timelines can be changed, we've seen it. Lieutenant Hayes got retroactively moved to a missile. What if I can retroactively remove myself from the ship? And if you can't, Garrett asked, if you're drawn to it against your will? I thought about the chair, about how my future self described sitting in it, seeing Earth's end. Then I guess we find out what the ship really wants to show us. The lights flickered. On every screen, the ship pulsed once like a heartbeat. A new transmission came through. This time, the voice was Kyle's. Kyle Thornton, propulsion engineer, September 24th, 2025. His future self sounded broken. It showed me how to save everyone. The ship isn't a trap, it's an ark. The thing descending from the sky in March, the thing that ends Earth, we can survive it. The ship will protect us. All of humanity. We just have to board it. All of us. Together. Present Kyle stared at the speaker. That's not me. I didn't say that. I wouldn't. It will be you, I said. Tomorrow. The ship shows us something that makes us want others to board. That's how it spreads. It converts us into recruiters. Then we leave, Kyle said, standing abruptly. Right now. We get in our cars and drive away from this thing. Don't look back. You think it'll let us? Silas pulled up tracking data. Look at the ship's position. It's moved. Slowly, but it's following the evacuation routes. Tracking the densest population centers. It wants as many people as possible to see it. Garrett cursed under his breath. It's herding us. Making us run so it can collect more people when we realize there's nowhere to hide. My phone buzzed. Monica. News is saying the object is moving inland. They're telling people in Dallas to evacuate further north. Hollis, what the hell is happening? I called her. She answered immediately. You need to keep driving, I said. Don't stop. Don't look at the ship if you see it. Jesus, Hollis, you sound terrified. What is that thing? A trap disguised as salvation. It'll show you things, promise you things. But it's all a lie designed to make you board it. Board it? Why would anyone? Because it'll show you the future. Show you Earth ending. Show you that the only way to survive is to get on the ship. But Monica, listen to me. It's lying. The ship is the threat, not what it shows you. Silence on the other end. Then, you figured this out. You know how to stop it. I know how it works. That's not the same as stopping it. But you're going to try. Yeah, I'm going to try. Then be smart about it. You always overthink things, analyze them to death. This time, trust your gut. Her voice cracked. And if your gut says run, then run. Don't be a hero. Don't sacrifice yourself for people who won't appreciate it. I love you, I said. The words felt strange after months of silence between us. I know, I love you too. That's why I'm telling you to survive. She hung up. I looked around the control room, at the people who'd stayed behind. Engineers, scientists, soldiers. All of us drawn to the mystery like moths to flame. Maybe that was the filter. Maybe the ship sorted species into those who could resist curiosity and those who couldn't. We have 16 hours until I'm supposed to board, I said. Let's use them to figure out what happens if I don't. We spent the night running simulations, modeling timelines, calculating probabilities, trying to find a scenario where refusing to board didn't result in something worse. The math was depressing. Every model showed the same outcome. If I didn't board, someone else would. And if nobody boarded, the ship would wait. Forever, if necessary. It had time. All the time in the universe. Around 4 a.m, Kyle found something. Look at this. The hull warnings. They're not random. They follow a pattern. He projected it on the main screen. The warnings spiraled outward from the entrance, oldest at the center, newest at the edges. It's like tree rings. Each layer represents a different cycle, a different time the ship arrived and collected people. How many cycles? Paulson asked. At least 50, maybe more. The inner layers are too damaged to read. Kyle zoomed in on specific warnings. And look at the dates. They're not linear. Sometimes there's decades between cycles. Sometimes only years. It's like the ship comes back whenever humanity reaches a certain threshold. What threshold? Curiosity. Technological advancement. Whenever we develop the ability to detect and analyze something like this, the ship appears, tests us, and we fail every time. So what do we do? Garrett asked. Regress? Destroy our technology? Go back to being pre-industrial? Or, I said slowly, we accept that this is a test we're supposed to fail. Everyone stared at me. Think about it. Every warning tells us not to board, but the warnings only exist because people boarded. The ship needs victims to create warnings for the next generation. It's a self-perpetuating system. A trap that baits itself, Silas said. Exactly. So what if the real test isn't avoiding the ship? What if it's what you do after you board? My future self said the ship shows you the end, shows you Earth destroyed. What if the test is whether you use that knowledge selfishly or selflessly? Paulson leaned forward. Explain. The chair shows you the future. Every victim who sat in it has seen the same thing. Earth's destruction in March. The sky opening, something descending. But what if that's not a prophecy? What if it's a choice? Board the ship and try to save yourself, or stay and find another way to save everyone. You're saying the ship is offering people a way out, Kyle said, and every generation takes it, boards the ship to survive, leaving Earth behind. But the ship lies, Garrett added. It shows you doom to make you desperate, then offers salvation that doesn't exist. I nodded. The people who board don't escape. They become part of the hull, part of the warning system. The ship needs us to keep boarding so it can keep collecting. It's not saving anyone, it's just feeding. Then what's your plan? Paulson asked. I looked at the clock. 12 hours until my future self boarded. 12 hours to find another way. I'm going to board it, I said, but I'm not going to believe what it shows me. I'm going to sit in that chair, watch the end of everything, and then I'm going to walk away. You can't, Silas said. Your future transmission says you carved a warning. That means you couldn't leave. My future self didn't know what we know now, didn't understand the trap. Maybe knowing makes the difference. Maybe awareness is the key. And if you're wrong, Garrett asked, if you board and can't leave, then at least we tried something different. Paulson stood. I can't authorize this. It's suicide. Everything about this situation is suicide. At least this way. I'm choosing how I fail. The room went quiet. Outside the windows, dawn was breaking. The last sunrise before I would board the ship and discover whether humanity could learn to walk away from dangerous mysteries that wanted to consume us. Monica texted one more time. Whatever you're planning, make it count. I would. One way or another, this ended today. The helicopter dropped me 300 yards from the ship, close enough to swim, far enough that the rotors wouldn't get caught in whatever field surrounded that thing. Garrett had wanted to come with me, but this was something I needed to do alone. The Gulf water was warmer than I expected. I kicked toward the ship, my NASA wetsuit feeling inadequate against the weight of what I was about to do. The hull loomed above me, massive and impossible, covered in text that seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at it. I found a ladder, convenient, almost welcoming, and climbed. My hands shook on each rung. This was it, the moment my future self had warned about, the moment I became part of the ship's collection. Unless I could walk away. The entrance was a circular doorway, perfectly smooth, leading into darkness that seemed to extend forever. I stepped through. Inside, the ship was nothing like I expected. The corridors weren't metal or alien, they were human, like walking through an office building after hours. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The floor was linoleum. There were even exit signs, though they pointed in directions that didn't make sense. I followed them anyway, past doors that opened onto impossible spaces. One showed a field of stars, another revealed a room full of people who looked exactly like me, all staring at screens. I kept walking. The chair sat at the center of a vast chamber. It looked comfortable. Leather, well worn. Facing it was the view screen, currently blank. Around the chair, carved into the floor, were the warnings. Thousands of them. I recognized my own handwriting among them, though I hadn't written it yet. The letters were shaky, desperate. Don't believe what it shows you. The future is lies. Walk away. Walk away. I almost laughed. My future self, screaming at me from the floor, and I was about to ignore him. I sat down. The moment my body touched the chair, the world changed. The chamber disappeared. The ship disappeared. I was nowhere and everywhere, existing in a space that had no dimensions. Then the view screen activated. It showed Earth. Beautiful, blue-green, hanging in space. Then the sky opened. Not metaphorically. The atmosphere literally split apart like someone tearing paper. Through the gap, something descended. I couldn't look at it directly. My brain refused to process its shape. It was too large, too wrong, too fundamental to reality itself. Where it touched the ocean, the water didn't splash. It ceased. Just stopped existing. The thing spread across the planet like oil on water, erasing everything it contacted. Cities vanished, mountains dissolved. People turned to nothing before they could scream. March 15th, 2026, 6 months from now. The date my future self had mentioned. But the view screen wasn't done. It showed me alternatives. Timelines where we tried to fight the thing. Nuclear weapons, particle beams, everything we had. Nothing worked. It kept coming, kept erasing, until Earth was a smooth sphere of undifferentiated matter. Then it showed me the ship's offer. Board now, bring everyone you can. The ship would save us, preserve humanity while the thing erased our world. We'd survive. Not everyone, but enough. The species would continue. All I had to do was convince others to board, become a recruiter for the ship, help it collect more people before March. I felt my hand moving toward the control panel, felt myself ready to accept. The logic was perfect. Why die with Earth when I could survive? Why let humanity end when the ship offered continuation? My fingers stopped an inch from the panel. Something was wrong with the vision. The thing descending from the sky. It didn't move like something real. It moved like computer graphics, like a simulation designed to terrify. And the timeline where we fought back, the nuclear weapons that failed, those looked wrong too. I'd run those simulations myself. I knew what a nuclear detonation in atmosphere looked like. This wasn't it. The ship was lying, not about everything. The threat was probably real. Something was coming. But the ship was exaggerating, manipulating, making it seem hopeless so we'd accept its offer. I stood up. The view screen flickered, showed me Monica alone in a hotel room, watching news coverage of the ship. Showed me her dying in March when the sky opened. Showed me that I could save her. No, I said aloud. The chamber shuddered. The warnings on the floor began to glow. I felt pressure around my legs, like invisible hands trying to force me back into the chair. I kept walking, toward the door, toward the exit, toward the possibility that I could leave. Behind me, the view screen exploded into images. Every person I'd ever known, dying. Every city burning. The Earth itself cracking apart. The ship was throwing everything at me. Every nightmare, every fear, trying to make me stay. My future self's voice echoed through the chamber. You can't leave. Nobody leaves. Once you sit, once you see, you're part of it forever. Then I'll be the first exception, I said. The door was 50 feet away, 40, 30. The pressure around my legs intensified, felt like walking through concrete. The ship didn't want to let me go. It needed me. Needed my warning on the hull. Needed my voice recruiting others. 20 feet, 15. My muscles screamed, each step took everything I had. 10 feet. The view screen showed me one final image. Me, old and alone, having walked away from the ship. Having watched Earth die because I refused to help save it. The guilt destroyed me. I spent my remaining years in madness, knowing I could have made a difference. 5 feet. Maybe, I gasped, but at least I'll die free. I crossed the threshold. The ship released me like a spring uncoiling. I stumbled into the corridor, legs nearly giving out. Behind me, the chamber door sealed. I could hear screaming from inside, all the voices of everyone who'd sat in that chair, still trapped, still trying to warn the next victim. But I wasn't trapped. I was walking, moving, getting closer to the exit with each step. The ship tried other tactics. Doors opened, showing me temptations. Monica waiting for me, saying she'd forgive everything if I just stayed. My mother, dead 10 years, telling me she was proud. Colleagues explaining that the math supported boarding. I ignored them all, kept walking. The exit had to be close. I'd only taken one turn on the way in. The corridor stretched. What should have been a 2-minute walk became 5, then 10. The ship was playing with space, making the exit unreachable. I stopped walking and closed my eyes. Thought about what Silas had said. The ship existed in multiple time frames. It was manipulating my perception of distance. But perception wasn't reality. I opened my eyes and walked forward, trusting that the exit was exactly where geometry said it should be. 3 steps later, I was outside, standing on the hull under open sky, breathing Gulf air that tasted like salt and freedom. I looked down at the hull beneath my feet, at the warnings carved there, and I realized I hadn't carved one. My future self's warning didn't exist because I'd changed the timeline. I'd walked away when he couldn't. Below me, a speedboat approached. Garrett at the wheel, Kyle beside him. They looked shocked to see me standing. "Get down here," Garrett shouted. "The ship is moving." He was right. The hull beneath me was tilting, angling toward the sky. The ship was preparing to leave. I climbed down to the water and swam to the boat. Garrett hauled me in. "You did it," Kyle said, disbelieving. "You actually walked away." "Yeah. What did it show you?" The end of everything, and the lie that we could escape it. I looked back at the ship, now rising into the atmosphere. But here's the thing. The threat is real. Something is coming in March. The ship wasn't lying about that. But it was lying about being able to save us, Garrett said. No, it was lying about being the only way to save us. I watched the ship accelerate, watched it leave Earth's orbit and head back to wherever it came from. We have 6 months. 6 months to figure out how to survive without boarding that thing, without giving in to the easy answer. Kyle stared at the departing ship. "You think we can do it?" "I think we have to try. Because the alternative is becoming warnings for the next species that gets curious." The ship vanished into the stars. For the first time in days, the sky looked normal, empty, waiting to be filled with whatever came next. Garrett turned the boat toward shore. "Paulson is going to want a full debrief. Tell him to mobilize everyone, every scientist, every engineer, every person who can help. We're not hiding from what's coming. We're going to face it on our terms." "And if we fail?" Kyle asked. "Then at least we failed trying to save ourselves instead of trusting something that wanted to collect us." I thought about Monica, probably watching news coverage of the ship's departure. At least we fail free. The boat cut through the water. Behind us, the spot where the ship had hovered was empty. No evidence it had ever been there, except the memories of everyone who'd seen it, and one physicist who'd sat in its chair and walked away. As we approached shore, I saw the NASA team waiting. Paulson, Silas, dozens of others. They'd watched the ship leave, watched me survive something that should have been impossible. I climbed onto the dock. Paulson approached, his expression unreadable. "You changed the timeline," he said. "Yeah. Your warning, the one your future self carved, it doesn't exist anymore." "Good. Maybe that means I wrote a different ending." He almost smiled. "March 15th, 6 months. Think that's enough time?" "It has to be. Then let's get to work." I pulled out my phone. Dozens of missed calls from Monica. I texted her. "I'm alive. Coming to Dallas. We need to talk about the future, about us, about what we're going to do with the time we have left." She responded immediately, "I'll be waiting." The sun was setting over Houston. 6 months until the sky opened. 6 months to find an answer that didn't involve surrendering to something that fed on human curiosity. It wasn't much time, but it was more than we'd had yesterday. And this time we'd face the end together, free from the ship's promises, free from warnings carved in metal. Just humanity, stubborn and curious and terrified, doing what we did best. Refusing to go quietly into the dark. Monica found me on the roof of the research facility 3 days before March 15th. I'd been spending most nights up there, watching the stars. The ship never returned. "You should sleep," she said, sitting beside me. We'd reconciled 2 months ago. Some paperwork felt pointless when the world might end. Can't. Too much to do. "Hollis, you've done everything you can. The defense grid is operational. The evacuation centers are ready. Whatever comes through that sky, we're as prepared as we'll ever be." She was right. The past 6 months had been a blur. After I'd walked off that ship, governments worldwide took the threat seriously. We'd built countermeasures, particle weapons, dimensional anchors, technology that shouldn't exist. "What if it's not enough?" I asked. Monica took my hand. Then at least we tried. At least we didn't climb into a ship and hope something else would save us. Below us, Houston glowed with activity. The city had rebuilt. People had returned. Some fled to bunkers. Others accepted that if the end came, they wanted to face it in familiar places. Kyle Thornton worked downstairs. He'd never boarded the ship, never carved his warning. His October 2027 date never came. So was I. My name wasn't on that hull. I'd changed my future by refusing to accept what the ship showed me. "Do you think it was real?" Monica asked. "What you saw?" "Parts of it. The ship mixed truth with lies. Something is coming, but maybe not as hopeless as the ship wanted me to believe." "Why?" "Maybe it was collecting us. Maybe protecting us from something worse. Or maybe walking away was the point." She leaned against me. "You keep running calculations, looking for flaws. If I missed something..." "You didn't. You can't save everyone alone. That's what got us in trouble before." I thought about the chair, the isolation of sitting there watching the end. But I hadn't been alone. The warnings carved by everyone before me had helped. And the team that built the defense grid, they'd saved us. "March 15th, I said. 3 more days. 3 more days, then we'll know." I looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the ship was probably showing another species the same vision. "I hope they choose better," I said. Monica kissed my cheek. "Come inside. Whatever happens, you need to be rested." I followed her downstairs, past the labs, past the command center where Paulson coordinated with military forces, past screens showing the defense grid, online, charged, waiting. In our temporary quarters, Monica fell asleep quickly. I lay awake, thinking about the ship, about the chair, about the choice. The view screen had shown me Earth's destruction, but it hadn't shown me this. Humanity united, working together, fighting back, refusing to give up. Maybe that's what the ship couldn't predict, that we'd be stubborn enough to fight impossible odds. Or maybe we were about to learn that some threats can't be fought, that the ship's offer had been genuine and we'd made a terrible mistake by refusing. 3 days. Then we'd know if curiosity killed the cat or if the cat was clever enough to survive. I closed my eyes and dreamed of empty skies. When I woke on March 15th, the sky was still there, still blue, still whole, still beautiful. Nothing descended. Nothing opened. The day passed like any other day. Whatever the ship had shown me either hadn't arrived yet or had never been coming. But we were ready and we were free to choose fate. And that felt like truly winning.